Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, first live daily photo show on YouTube every weekday, 9:30 Pacific time. If you're not watching live, you know the routine. You could be and you should be, because it's a lot of fun. Like Martin here, who's waiting out in the chat room to say good morning and hello to everybody here. Hey, so today's show is going to be a slightly different format because this is going to be more of a conversation show. I want to have a conversation with you guys, the audience, about backup strategies. I'll start by explaining what I do, but then I'm not going to separate out the conversation as a separate thing because I think it's all kind of belongs together. I just want to hear about what you guys are doing, how you're doing your backup, how you wish you were doing your backup, because a lot of us, we don't back up quite as much as we should, and just to kind of have an open conversation about it. That's the idea for today's show. So I hope you enjoy that. And we are slowly trickling people in this morning. It seems like a slow morning out there. People are still waking up. Good morning, Alphonse from Liechtenstein. Excellent. I love the international audience here. So so we're going to skip the normal morning chit chat and just kind of go straight into it as people trickle in. So backup. All right. Obviously, everybody has to do it, right? You gotta back up. You can't get away without backing up. You can't say, oh, I'll back up one of these days, or oh, I don't need to back up. It's just not that important. Good morning, Sully. Because it's kind of like motorcycle accidents. There's two kind of people in the world. There's riders who have crashed, and there's riders who haven't crashed yet. Same thing with drive data backup. There's people who've lost data and people who haven't lost data yet. This is not a question of if, it's a question of when. So you got to be prepared for it. Adrian, good morning. Scott, Closby, good morning from New Orleans. Love New Orleans. Scott, did you ever see my video on New Orleans, the GX85 video? You got to check that out. If not, we'll link to it up here, but we'll have to link to it later, but we'll put it up here. Good morning, veterans. Good morning, JD. Everybody chiming in this morning. Awesome. Finals week. Sorry about that, Jeremy. Oof, finals. That's brutal. I remember those days. So, Fake Cube says, no live stream scheduled on the channel today. That is so weird. I don't know how any of that works. That is bizarre. It should be. It was scheduled. I scheduled it. Scheduled it yesterday. I said it public. YouTube can't figure this thing out. Anyway, so let's talk about basic backup strategies. So this is how I want to do it. Let's talk some really high-level overview backup. I'm going to talk about some of the specifics of what I do, simultaneously interacting with you guys, talking about what you do, and then at the end of it, we'll just have a full-on, let's just chit-chat about how this whole thing can and should and does work for all of you. Okay, so first of all, backup. There's a very simple, simple rule for backup. If it doesn't exist in three places, it doesn't exist. Don't forget that. Three places or it doesn't exist. You have to have your primary copy, your working active copy, a local backup, and an offsite backup. Now, how that offsite backup is handled could be any number of ways. It could be cloud backup. It could be drives that you're FedExing off to somewhere. It could be drives you're sticking in a vault. But if it's drives that are sitting on your desk next to you, two stacks of hard drives sitting next to you, this is no good. Right? You got to remember that backup is not just about drive failure. It's not just about the drive crashing. It is about physical destruction, things like your building burning down or theft, somebody coming in and stealing all of your gear. If all your backups were in one place, in the case of natural or man-made disaster or theft or anything like that, they're both gone. And I would go as far as saying that just moving them from the office to home, if it's in the same city, is probably not really good enough either, especially if you live somewhere like California where you've got major earthquake issues, or maybe somewhere on the East Coast where you've got hurricanes, major weather issues. Anywhere where a mass part of your, and I'm sorry to be morbid about it, but a mass part of your region could potentially go poof. If your data matters, you got to get at least one copy out of there. This is why the idea of cloud backup, I think, is really attractive. And remember, the cloud, I love, there's a t-shirt that says, there is no cloud, it's just somebody else's computer. It's great, and that's totally true. But when you're using a big cloud backup system, something like Backblaze, then you are, yes, it is somebody's computer. There's no cloud, it's just somebody's computer. But it's a lot of really big computers that have redundant backups and potentially even redundant backups around the world, depending on what level of backups you're doing there. So getting something online backup, a cloud/internet/elsewhere backup is a really, really good idea. So that's just kind of a very general overview. On the lowest level, you've got your, if you're on a Mac, you have your built-in Time Machine, which is super easy. Just plug in a hard drive. Mac OS says, hey, do you want to use this for Time Machine? You say yes, and that's it. Everything's backing up to there. And then the next level of super simple is installing something like Backblaze. I'm a huge fan of Backblaze. There's an affiliate link that I have in the notes below. It's already in there. And I'll tell you that I started working with Backblaze when they were very, very young, when the company first started. And back when I was still at Apple, and I was using Aperture, of course, and in the earliest days, Backblaze wasn't backing up Aperture libraries properly. And this started a dialogue this started a dialogue with them well over a decade ago, I think at this point. It had to be over a decade ago, which evolved into them modifying their software so that it properly supported the Aperture libraries, and then me becoming a lifelong customer of theirs. Now, obviously, Aperture libraries aren't relevant to too many people anymore, but it's good to know that their system supports things like that, supports packages properly, and has continued to evolve over the years. Now, if you've never seen Backblaze before, let me just pull this up here real quick. This is Backblaze over here on the left, so just backblaze.com, although, again, please use my affiliate link is down below, or just type in photoapps.expert/Backblaze. And it's, what does this thing cost? It's actually really cheap. Personal backup, I think it's $10 a month, $5 a month, there we go. $5 a month for unlimited storage of whatever is connected to your computer. So now this, as any cloud backup requires, it requires an internet connection that's reasonably good. I will admit that I've got so much data stored on my local drives, and I'm producing so much new content daily that I have fallen behind, and I have not been fully backed up on Backblaze for a very long time. What I really need to do is either stop making stuff for a month or move my system to somewhere with a gigabit connection and leave it there over a long weekend, which I actually tried to do once, and I screwed something up and totally didn't work. But anyway, that was my fault. But just normal everyday people shooting normal amount of still photography, maybe a little bit of video, not doing full-on video production, but normal amount of video, you'll find that a Backblaze backup will work out perfectly fine. It might take a couple of months to get your initial backup done, but what I always heard from people over and over again, oh, I can't do cloud backup, it's too slow, it'll take months to back up. Okay, so it'll take months to back up. But I've been hearing you say the same thing for a year now. If you had started backing up that first time you told me you couldn't do it, you'd have been backed up by now. So I just reiterate that it's, $5 a month. It's a great deal. You plug it in, you turn it on, you forget about it, and it just goes. So that is, for most people, that is a phenomenal way to do your backup. And there are other systems out there that are similar to Backblaze. That's just the one that I recommend because I've used it, I know it, I've used it personally, I've recovered countless files from there. It's a fantastic system. I have every system in my studio has its own Backblaze account. Computers, my wife's computer, my kid's computer, everything is backed up to Backblaze. It's fantastic. Okay, let me see what's going on in the comments here, and then we're going to move on to slightly more intricate systems in here that we've got. Remember, if you're watching live and you want to comment, make sure you put @PhotoJoseph in front of the comment. That way I will see your comment on screen, and if you really want to throw out some big old comment, you want to get my attention, then hit that $sign down below, the super chat button. That will definitely get my attention. All right, Sharback says, I'm just about to order a 4 terabyte Western Digital Wireless Pro portable hard drive with fast battery powered 75 megabit SD card, HDD backup. Good Lord. Just pop in the SD card and it backs up to the HDD 10-hour battery. Oh, cool. Okay, so that's a portable backup. So that's awesome. Yeah, actually, I'd kind of forgotten about that. I'm glad you brought that up because that wasn't part of my plan for this morning. Oh, but I have it. No, I don't have it right there. I did an article on it, I'll pull it up. This isn't it, but I have a hard drive, a disk that is this size that I use for portable backup on the road. But yeah, when you're on the road, when you're traveling, if you're out shooting and traveling, you got to keep going on your backup. And if you're traveling somewhere where you're not going to have a super fast internet connection, and you can't rely on your cloud backup and your primary backup, whether it's Time Machine or whatever it is back home, you want to have something with you on the road. So this solution that Charbax is talking about, or even just any USB 3 drive that you can run Time Machine or run Carbon Copy Cloner on, and we'll talk about that in a moment, while you're on the road is a great way to do it. So don't forget about backing up when you're traveling. Super important. Scott's saying the GX85 video is how you found out about me. That would be the New Orleans video. Sweet. Thank you, Scott, for finding me after that. Martin says, I'm lucky to own a suite in 2 data centers. So I have to back up my own and 27,000 customers. Well, you probably know a thing or two about. Well, no, I'm stoked that you're here because you'll probably have some things to offer that I wouldn't be thinking about. And that's actually a nice thing to point out right now. When it comes to backup, the only, you say there's no right answer, no wrong answer. The only wrong answer when it comes to backup is not to do it, right? That's the only wrong answer. There are 1,000 right answers to backup, 1,000 ways to do your backup. I don't care what you do, just do it. You gotta do it. So some of you will know have infinite knowledge about backup and know way more than I do. Some of you are going, what's a backup? So no matter where you fall into that space, you gotta back up. It's super, super important. That's the only thing. The only wrong answer is not backing up. Sharbeck says, yes, it would seem cool. Yes, it seems cool. Western Digital Pro Wireless backups, 128 gig SD card. In half an hour, 256 SD card. In an hour, it has 10-hour battery life. That's awesome. That sounds like a really cool device. Okay. Adrian says, any suggestions on sites to send client files bigger than 3 gigabytes so they can download? I don't know. How do I do that? I usually use Backblaze or Backblaze on the mind. I usually use Dropbox or Google Drive if I'm moving big files around like that. There's always the you send it, things like that, but maybe those have file limits I'm not aware of, but I don't really use those, so I don't know. Okay, let's see here. So let's go into backup routines. So let's start with a basic, simple one. This is if you're on a Mac, this is going to be with Time Machine. If you're on a PC, I don't know what Windows has built into it. I would imagine they have something built into it, but let's just assume simple, straightforward backup software that you can get either free or cheap with your system. So now you just need a drive to plug into it. If you're say a normal user and you've got a laptop or an iMac, a desktop machine, whatever it is, and you've got a few terabytes of hard drive space in there, then having a single external drive, and it doesn't have to be a fast drive, right? You don't have to buy a Thunderbolt drive. It doesn't even have to be USB 3. It can be a slow old USB 2 drive. Perfectly fine. You don't need fast access for backup. You just want something that is bigger than what your internal drive is that you're backing up, and then everything backs up to there, and you can have history, right? That's one of the advantages of having a bigger drive. So if you're using Time Machine, and again, sorry, I don't know what's on Windows, but I'm sure there's something that does basically the same. If you're on Time Machine, you have the ability to go back in time. That's hence the name Time Machine. So if you deleted a file a month ago, and you go, oh crap, where's that file? If you go into Time Machine, odds are you'll be able to find it because it's been backing up every hour of every day, and it keeps backups historically as long as it can until that drive fills up and then it starts throwing away the older data. Okay, so a single drive, something like this guy right here, over on the left, this on the B&H page, you see the Seagate 5 terabyte backup plus desktop drive, right? This is actually USB 3, so look at that. We've got the speed there. It's USB 3, 5 terabytes. That's pretty healthy. It's $120. I mean, this is so cheap because it's not meant to be a super high-speed drive. This isn't your primary drive. This isn't not a drive you're hitting all day, every day. It's slow, and it's not that slow because it's still USB 3, but it's just one of these things. It's cheap. You put it on there, you back up all the time. So I got distracted because Fenwick has jumped in and he says, maybe do work that isn't critical, then backup is not needed. All your work is critical, Fenwick, and you know it. All your work is critical. You always got to back it up. Fenwick's in here now to poke around and have some fun with me, I can tell. So that's a super, super inexpensive way to go. Now, okay, so I actually own some of these. Now let me talk about how I'm doing things specifically here. 5 terabytes isn't enough, right? I've got, I don't know what, I have a 3 terabyte drive internally on the iMac, and then probably, I don't know, another 20, 30 terabytes of local online storage. And Fenwick and I did a conversation, it was a while ago, a few months ago. We'll link to that up here. And this is a conversation about data storage, backup, archiving when it comes to big video stuff. And truth be told, I haven't implemented a lot of what we talked about because it's time and money, when you're talking about a lot of data. But for my local, I've got 20 or 30 terabytes of local storage that needs to get backed up on a regular basis. Time Machine still works out fine. The problem is that one of these little 5 terabyte drives isn't going to cut it. So, okay, so you can get a bunch of these drives and you can either just let the data roll over those drives, although Time Machine I don't think really does that. Time Machine wants a single drive. So you can use other software that'll let you roll over it. But what I've done is I have created a RAID using these cheap drives. And I know some of you right now are thinking, you're an idiot. You can't do that. Well, as Fenwick knows, sometimes you have conversations with people who say, you're an idiot, and you go, you know what, it works for me, and it gets the job done. So let me show you what my idiot solution is. There we go. I do this. I have a pile of these 5 terabyte drives. I think I have 6 of them, maybe 8, I don't remember, a bunch of these. And they're RAIDed together using this app called SoftRAID. Now, SoftRAID is a software RAID. This will way better than what is built into your Mac. And this is a Mac thing. I don't think this is a Windows software. I think this is Mac only. So again, PC users, I'm sorry. I just don't know enough about the PC side of things to tell you where to go. But Soft RAID not only builds a RAID, which you can do just with the built-in disk utility on your Mac. This does a few things. When you first get your drive, a new hard drive, you put it through a Soft RAID stress test. I forget what it's called, but basically a stress test. And it goes through and it beats the hell out of that drive, and it comes back and says, this drive is good, it can handle it, or it says, oh no, this is not a good drive. And probably, I'd say 1 out of every 4 or 5 drives that I buy, it rejects, and so I just ship it back. Amazon, return, get rid of this thing, give me a new one. And I'll do that until Soft RAID says, thumbs up on this drive. And then when you've got a bunch of these drives, you can build a RAID. And the RAID that I built is a RAID 5. And a RAID 5 is a type of RAID where if you have, let's say you've got 3 disks, one of them is what's called a parity drive. Any one of those 3 drives can fail. The software tells you, hey, one of the drives failed, you replace that drive and it rebuilds it. So you have to have at least 3 drives to do a RAID 5, but you could have 10 drives, you could have 20 drives. You can even have multiple parity drives in there. I think it's not a RAID 5, it becomes something else at that point. But the idea is that any one of those drives can fail at any time, and you can replace that drive without losing data. There's another type of a RAID called a JBOD, or just a bunch of disks. This is also basically a RAID, oh boy, get the right one, RAID 0, RAID 1. I think that's RAID 1. Too many RAID numbers. The problem with that is that if any one drive fails, you lose everything. So you could have 10 drives together, one of them fails, you lose all the data on all 10 drives. That's a really bad idea. For backup, it's a terrible idea. But a RAID 5 for backup means that even though it's your backup, any one of those drives can fail and you're still good to go. So this is a really inexpensive way to do things, right? We go back to this. You've got a stack of these Seagate 5 terabyte drives, or something equivalent, something like this, big fat drives that are cheap, that you RAID together with Soft RAID, and now you've got a 20, 30, 40, 50 terabyte drive sitting on your desk, stack of drives, but drives sitting on your desk that you can back up to using something like Time Machine or any other simple backup system. So something to think about is a really good way to do it. Let's see, let me go back into the comments here and then we're going to move on. Chris Fenwick says, there is much FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in most discussions about drive strategy and data storage. There is. And like I said, the only wrong answer is not backing up. That really is the only wrong answer. Martin Pitt says, we tend to use SSD drives these days. We have them more than reliable. You've found them probably more than reliable. Yeah, SSD drives are definitely more reliable than spinning platter drives. So your SSD meaning solid state drives are more reliable than spinning platter because there's no moving parts, but they're more expensive. Eventually that will end. Spinning drives will eventually go away. They're already starting to go away. Obviously your phone doesn't have a spinning drive and your iPad doesn't have a spinning drive. Your laptops these days, most laptops when you buy them, they're probably going to come with SSD as the default even. Yes, it costs more per gigabyte, but faster, quite a lot faster, and quite a bit more reliable. So spinning drives are going away, but they're still available and they're cheap. Cheap. So there's that. Let's see, Martin Pitt says, what RAID type, 1, 5, or 10? Well, so what I'm doing, RAID 5 is what I've got on the Soft RAID. Chris Fenwick says, so you made a homegrown Drobo. Okay, so the RAID 5 is not a Drobo. The Drobo is a very interesting drive that unfortunately I have to say I'm not a huge fan of. I've had problems in the past and I've had reliability issues and performance issues. Now this is just me personally. I'm not saying, don't buy Drobo. If you have good experiences or you have other photographers you know and trust that are telling you that works great, then that's awesome. I personally have not had the greatest of experiences with them. But the idea, the theory behind it is really cool. The idea behind a Drobo is you've got a box with 5 drive slots in it, and you buy the box and you pop in 2 drives, and then at some point it says, hey, I need more storage, you pop in another drive. And it goes, hey, I need more, you pop in another drive, and you fill it up. And then let's say that you put in a 2 terabyte, and then you add another 2 terabyte, and then you added a 3 and a 4 terabyte, and then a 5 terabyte, and it says, hey, I need more storage. You go, uh-oh, I have no more drive slots. Okay, my oldest or smallest drive is 2 terabytes. You pull that one out, you pop in a 5 terabyte to replace it, it rebuilds, and off you go. So you can mix and match the drive types. You can pop out a drive at any point, replace it with a bigger drive, and add to the storage capacity. You cannot do that with RAID 5. With RAID 5, you replace the drive with an identical drive, and if you want to expand your RAID 5, the only way to do it is to start over. You cannot just add more storage to a RAID 5. You have to dismantle it. So if you have 5 drives that are part of your RAID 5, and you want to add a 6th one, you can't just add it. You got to basically take the whole thing down, which, I mean, it's only a few clicks, but you're losing your entire existing backup. So you can't do this unless you've got another backup somewhere else. And at this point, you're in that fingers crossed stage that things don't go to hell. But You can't do that with RAID 5. So that's one of the limitations of RAID 5, one of the advantages of the Drobo, but I've had issues. So I'm not a huge Drobo fan, unfortunately. All right, so that's the difference between Drobo and a regular RAID. Fenwick's also saying, how are you plugging in a stack of drives USB 3 hub using every port on your Mac? Okay, so yes, it goes into a hub. Let's see here, let me take a look at the back of this thing. So the back of this drive, if we pull this guy up, is just a single port. It doesn't have, you can't daisy chain these things. You can't daisy chain USB, so it has to go into a hub. So yes, I have a big fat USB 3 hub. All these drives plug into that, and then that plugs into the Mac. So I'm not using every port up on the Mac. Fenwick is commenting, adding to the commentary about Drobo. I'll let you read the comments for those of you who are here. Okay, let's see here. So that's how I'm plugging that in. So that's how I personally do my local backup. A big stack of cheap Seagate 5 terabyte drives rated using SoftRaid. SoftRaid will tell me if a drive is on its way out, if it's going to fail, if it's detected problems with it. It's constantly monitoring it. Like I said, it does this initial beat up pass on it that really verifies whether the drive is good or not. And I think that's fantastic. So I really like that. So SoftRaid is a purchase. You buy that software and a bunch of drives and you're good to go. And that is cheaper than buying, a fancy multi-disc RAID that can be considerably more expensive when you don't need the performance of the RAID. You just need a big, huge chunk of storage for your backup. Okay, so there's that. We talked about Backblaze as an online cloud backup. I want to know what you guys are using for cloud backup. Start telling me what you guys are doing for your backup, because I do want this to be a conversation. Let's see here. Next up, what do I want to talk about next? Oh, right. For on-the-go mobile backup, or anytime you need a quick instant backup, there's a piece of software called Carbon Copy Cloner. Carbon Copy Cloner is awesome. This is very simple. Do I have it on here? Yes, I do have it on the system. Carbon Copy Cloner. Oh, look, there's a new version. Remind me later. Where you can build a very quick, very easy backup. So let's just say, I'm going to make a whole new one here. And I'm probably going to replicate this, but we're going to call this Complete Local Backup. Okay, Complete Local Backup. So what's my source? I click on here and I'm choosing my internal drive as my source. Destination, well, now I don't have one plugged in, but let's just say I had a drive plugged in, it would be right there. So I'd select that. I'm not going to choose any of these, that would be dangerous. But let's just pretend that I had another drive, I select that, and then I can click on a schedule. Do I want to run it on a schedule every hour, every day, weekly, monthly? Or this is a really cool one, when the source or destination is reconnected. So let's say, and then you can have it remind you if it hasn't done it in a while. So let's just say that I've got this is my portable temporary backup. I've got my laptop, I'm on the road, I've got an external Thunderbolt, USB, whatever drive that is obviously bigger than the internal drive. I create a clone for that, I plug it in and tell it to do its first backup, and it's going to be quite quick. It's surprising how quick it can be. Now, obviously, if you're going to back up 500 gigs, it's going to take a little while, but you let that first one go overnight, fine. Now I've got a starting point. Then every night I get to my hotel or I copy new pictures off, whatever, before I go to bed, I plug in that hard drive. As soon as I plug it in, it goes, oh, the hard drive's there, boom, and it starts doing a backup to it. You can leave that hard drive in your hotel as you go out and about, or stick it in the vault, or whatever. Whatever suits your fancy as far as your level of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, as Fenwick put out there. I have, and this isn't it, but I have a tiny little SSD USB memory thing that's like this. And actually, let me find, I did an article on this. Let me find that article for you. That was on my PhotoJoseph's expert site. And let's see here. I'm just going to search backup, see if I can find this thing real quick. And this is specifically for while I'm on the road, backing up of my photos, just of the photos. So I'll use this to back up, I didn't find it. I'll use this to back up my pictures as I go, and it's something super tiny that I can then carry with me, keep it in my pocket, or leave it in the hotel, or whatever I want to do. And it's obviously very, very lightweight, small and tiny. Again, this isn't it, but it looks exactly like this. What was it called? Oh, SanDisk. That's what that thing was. Let me search for SanDisk on my site. And nope, that's not it either. Sorry, I didn't think about this article until this came up. Oh, here we go. A photo and video backup strategy while on the road. Let me make this a little bit bigger and go to this. So Oh, this is a multi-page. So, okay, the article is called "A Photo and Video Backup Strategy While on the Road," while on the road traveling. We'll put a link to this in the show notes down below as well. But talk about a few things in here with Lightroom, and then somewhere in here I have a picture of this stupid thing. Here's a whole setup with Carbon Copy Cloner, exactly how I set up what I was doing. There we go. That's the disk. This teeny tiny little guy that plugs into your computer. Look at that, 35 bucks for 128 gigs. And so this is not going to be your entire system, but this will most likely accommodate all the photos that you're shooting while on the road. And again, it's this teeny, teeny, tiny little thing. You can put it in your shirt pocket, put it in a little coin pocket on your jeans, keep it with you everywhere you go. I love having this. It's just another level of backup. You can never have too many backups. All right, let's see here. What else we got going on? Martin says, see my comment above about UK laws. UK laws mean we have to hold data for 7 years as an internet service provider. Okay. So you're talking about traffic. I'm not quite sure what you're telling me, Martin. You're talking about as a backup, or you're talking about as an ISP, the data passing through your servers, which is terrifying for someone who is doing things online they shouldn't be doing. Brent says, I rely on hackers to steal my data, I presume. Excellent. Good plan. I think that's a great strategy. Faked Cube says, I use on-site time machine, then periodically make on-site offline backups. If I have a fire, I have a fire, and I can live with that. But if lightning strikes, I'll be fine. I mean, I wouldn't say you could live with it. I think you'd be pretty upset if your place burned down and you lost all your pictures. Pictures are kind of important. Just saying. You know, I think that having an off-site backup is pretty darn important. If you are going to do the type of off-site backup where you are physically moving drives to a vault, to a safety deposit box, to the other side of the country, you can really think about strategies where all the drives are never in one place, right? If your strategy is, here's my computer, right? So that's copy number 1. Here's my local backups, that's copy number 2. And here's my offsite backup, that's copy number 3. But it's physical drives. If I have to move this drive is off in a vault somewhere, we're assuming that it's safe, but then I have to bring this drive back home, back to my studio to copy everything over. In that moment, all backups are in the same place and I'm no longer protected. Granted, that's one day, one evening, whatever, but that could be the evening that, you know, the world goes to hell and you lose your stuff. Probably a bad idea. So in that case, what you need, I need another prop. Here we go. In that case, what you need, we're going to use the remote control. You need another backup. So now I've got 2 offsite backups. So I copy, so my initial backup, I copy everything to both of these. Okay, and then I move this one off to the vault. Okay, now a week goes by, a month goes by, whatever cycle you're going to do. Now I update this backup, and now I take this backup to the vault and take the other one back again, right? That's an important step to do it that way. Not I go to the vault, I bring my backup here, and then I take this one and I move it out. You have just defeated the entire purpose of this. So you got to take that backup, move it away. When it's time to update, back up this one, move it over there, so you have 2 separate copies at all times, and move it back again. We're getting into, you know, a pretty high level of paranoia here, but we're talking about your data after all. So, you know, or the train could come by. You never know what's going to happen. So important stuff. Important stuff. Okay. Let's see here. Product Interna says, Sully says, I also use a GNAR box. That sounds like a GNU thing. I'm not familiar with the GNAR box. Product Interna says, we use Dropbox for active projects and archived master is about $9 for 1 terabyte. Our latest project was heavy though, weighing in at 550 gigs. A film about Fujifilm GFX50S. Raw files are huge. Raw files are huge. Raw files are huge. Yeah, Dropbox isn't a backup. It's great because everything that's in Dropbox also lives in the cloud everywhere else, and you don't have to worry about it as much on backup. In fact, if you're low on space on a backup, it's probably reasonably confident. You could reasonably confidently not have that backed up locally because you know that Dropbox has got it. But I would still have that pushed up to Backblaze or whatever your offsite backup is, because you never know. You know, what if they go out of business? I mean, they're not going to. Dropbox is awesome. They're huge. They're not going anywhere, but nothing is forever. Right? And you don't want to get that email one day that says, which I've seen come from a lot of data storage sites, I've seen this happen over and over again. You get an email that says, unfortunately, we've run out of money. We're shutting our doors. You have 30 days to get all your data off of our servers. And you're going, I got 6 terabytes up there and a crappy connection. How in the heck am I going to get all this back in time? You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be in that position. Chris Fenwick is saying, can someone do the math? 23 megabit upload speed, how long will it take to Backblaze a 10 terabyte disk? I think there's a calculator on Backblaze's site, Chris, and it is not a simple bandwidth math thing because they do some type of of compression and differencing and some crazy. I did an article years ago when they made a big change to how they did data, and their backup speeds increased tremendously. It's way faster than just uploading a file. It's mad science. I don't understand this crap, but it is way faster than simply uploading that file. So it will take a lot less time than you think it would, and certainly less time than if you just did the math on what it should take copying a file that big. So Martin's saying, yes, as an ISP, all data has to have multiple copies for 7 years. Man, sounds like a fun business. All right, let's see what else is on here. Product Intelligence says, yes, we use 2 offsite backups also in 2 different places. Yeah, that's great. So again, backing up, getting it all offsite is super, super important to have. All right, let's see here. So I think I talked about my backup, right? So I've got my local stack of drives, soft rated together. That's my local. My offsite is Backblaze, which again, as I said, is behind right now. So I need to move my stuff. I've got a buddy here in town who has a one gigabit connection. I need to move everything over to his office for a long weekend and just let it all get uploaded. It's just a pain. There's so many drives and computers, but you know, getting that backup is kind of important. So there's that. So that's how I do things. Those are my 2 backup solutions, and then of course the portable on the road drive, little tiny USB guy. When you're traveling, just to make sure that you have that. The carbon copy cloner, to kind of go back to that for a moment, I think someone asked if it was free. It's not free, but I don't think it's that expensive. Let's see, let me find where was that carbon copy cloner. Buy now, it is $40. So great, cheap. $40 to buy that, and that again gives you that that simple. And it doesn't have to be simple backup. And it can be a full-on complex, back this up, not that, this type of schedule. You can do a lot with it, but it is a complete mirror of your data. And in fact, one of the really good uses of this, kind of stepping aside from just your backup for the sake of backing up your data, if you're about to do a major OS upgrade, for example, and you're concerned, as you rightfully should be, that this OS update is going to break compatibility with certain software, or it is going to, I don't know, crash my drive and I'm going to lose everything. And you want the quickest way to get back up and running as possible. Right before you do the backup, you do a carbon copy cloner to another drive, and then you could either physically swap that drive out. If they're internal drives, you can swap them out, or you have a identical drive that you can then clone back to something that's either a new drive if your drive physically failed, or if in the course of backup you found that it rendered your most important software obsolete or incompatible, and you just don't have time to deal with the rebuild. You've got this backup, clone it back, and you're back up and running where you were before you started very quickly. So that's another really, really good use of Carbon Copy Cloner. It's one of those tools that you should just have. It's one of those, I mean, it's $40, it's cheap. You should just have it on your computer, because anytime you need to do a backup, whether it's let me just do this real quick before I do this change. Let me just do a quick little backup. Boom, done. Get it out of the way. Separate from your primary backups. It's just an extra thing to do. So I highly, highly recommend doing that. Alrighty, let's see here. Anything else coming in the comments? Nothing else coming in the comments yet. So keep on talking about what you guys are doing. That's what I want to hear here. This is part of the conversation, part of the show. We're not breaking this out as a separate show, because I really do want this backup to be an all-encompassing conversation. Tell me what you guys are doing, especially if it's something unique and clever that you think is a little bit out of the norm. Whether it's a really expensive solution or a really cheap solution, free, whatever, I don't care. I just want to hear about what you guys are doing, because it's interesting. We can all learn from each other here. And unfortunately, the chat is going to go away after this, so that will miss out. People who aren't watching live are going to miss out on that. But that's why I will read anything you write that's got my name in front of it, so we can, within reason, so we can do that. Fake Cube is saying the main benefit of something like Carbon Copy Cloner is it's a byte-by-byte copy. It doesn't rely on high-level OS drive APIs. Yeah, exactly. It's a clone. Hence the name Carbon Copy Cloner. It is a total clone. It is pretty awesome. Hey, JD Ross, thank you for that $5 contribution there. I certainly appreciate that. If you had a question to go in with that, pop that in below, and I will look for that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to scroll back and see if I missed anything relevant earlier while you guys are thinking about what else is going on. Think about what else you want to tell me. Yeah, people talking about using QNAP RAID setups. Very high-end RAIDs, very, very reliable, very good, but expensive. So if you're going to spend the money on a RAID, on a proper RAID solution, this is really for high-speed access, right? You're dealing with high-resolution video files, 4K video files. Although what's unbelievable is I can edit 4K video on my laptop, multiple streams of it because of the SSD drive. Insane. But if you're doing multi-stream, big ProRes files, 4K, multiple tracks, all that good stuff, then you probably are going to want a RAID. And RAID is going to give you that really fast access. And the reason, if you're totally not familiar with it, just little basics on RAID. A RAID is multiple drives. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just pretend these are 2 hard drives. If they're 2 separate hard drives, I can write data to this drive and I can write data to this drive. This is 5 terabytes. This is 5 terabytes. Together, it's a total of 10, but they're 2 separate 5 terabyte drives. So the maximum speed that I can read or write to that drive is dependent on this drive. If it's got, we'll make the numbers easy. Let's just say it's got a 1 gigabit. That's really fast, but let's just pretend. 1 gigabit throughput in and out, then that's the fastest I can possibly write to it. Same thing on here, right? Fastest I can possibly write to it is that 1 gigabit. But if I RAID them, I put the 2 of them together, the computer now sees these as a single 10 terabyte drive. And I effectively double, it's not exactly, but you effectively double the bandwidth. Keep it easy. So that 1 gigabit just became a 2 gigabit transfer. Now, how did that happen? It's not like I doubled the bandwidth. Well, what happened is the computer only has to write one block of data, 1 bit of data, whatever, to one drive, and then it writes it to the other, and then to the other, and then to the other. So you're doubling your effective bandwidth. And again, it's not exactly doubled, I know that, but you are effectively doubling it. So you can get a much higher performance off of multiple drives. And the more drives you stack together, the faster that gets because the system can spread that writing and reading across multiple drives. So that's what RAID gets you. But in a standard RAID that is built for speed and speed only, any one of these drives fails and you lose everything. That's why RAID 5 is super awesome because any one of those drives can fail. Things will slow down, but you will be able to pop in a new drive, have it rebuild, and then you'll be back up to full speed. So there's some cool options in there. Do a little research on RAID if you're not familiar with it. Just Google it or go to Wikipedia. There's some great information on RAIDs in there. All right, scrolling back down to the comments. Charback says, how many hard drives and SSD cards have failed on you? That's a great question. Let's see here. Well, okay. I talked about the Drobo thing a little bit. I'm going to tell you a little history lesson here. When I was using the Drobo, I had it for a little while, and then a drive failed in the Drobo. And I thought, wow, it was going to happen eventually, and here a drive failed, and the Drobo saying, don't worry, pop in a new drive. Sweet. And I got another one, it failed. Then another one, and it failed, and another drive failed in there. And at some point I went, hold on a second. I'm having way, way too many drive failures to be blaming the drives. So I got a new Drobo. Same thing. Drive failure after drive failure. I determined that the Drobo was killing the drives. And I stopped using them. Stopped using it. Got rid of it. Got something else. And my drives were fine. The drives were fine. It was the Drobo was killing them. And then a couple years later, Drobo reached out to me and said, hey, we would love for you to take another look, send you a new unit, full of drives, give it a try. And it has been reliable, perfectly reliable, hasn't failed on me at all. But the performance is not good. I got it specifically to use, they shipped it out to me so I could use it on a video project where I was going to be doing a bunch of 4K video. I needed that performance. It wasn't. I can't play a single stream of 4K off the Drobo. And I went back and forth with them, sent them performance tests. And unfortunately, they eventually stopped responding to my emails. It's kind of like, I think they just said, you know what, we're not gonna, just forget about it. I'm sorry, Drobo. I want to love you, I really do. But our history together has not been good. So that's my experience. So the vast majority of my drive failures have been inside of the Drobo. As far as totally separate drives, I've had drives fail of these little Seagate guys in my stack. I had Carbon Copy Cloner say, uh-oh, failed. I'm not Carbon Copy Cloner, sorry. SoftRaid, go, hey, this drive failed. Ooh, good to know. Under warranty, drive was still under warranty, so got it replaced under warranty, got a brand new drive, popped it in there. Perfect. I had a couple of drives that I bought that appeared fine, but SoftRaid, they failed the SoftRaid initial test, and so I just sent them back. I didn't wait for them to fail. It says it's going to fail. I'm not even going to screw around with it, get rid of it. I have never, no, that's not true. I have lost data to drive failures inside the Drobo. Sorry. The one place where you're not supposed to lose data. That's the one place, the only place I've ever actually lost data due to drive failure. I've lost data due to complete ineptitude and deleting files that I shouldn't have deleted and not realizing it until a year later. But yeah, I've never lost data to drive failure because of backups, right? Because of backups. I have plenty of times I've lost data and had to download stuff. But even there, I don't think, even the drive failures, other than the Drobo one, I don't think I've ever lost data to drive failure. But pretty lucky. And I've never had an SSD drive fail. I have had SD cards have corrupted images on them. Going through the card, the images on the card, and found some corrupted images, but individual images. I've never had a whole SD card go out on me. I've never lost an entire card's worth of data. So that's man, you know, all the fingers crossed there. All right, what else is going on here? Back into the comments. Scott Colesby says, I use both Google Drive and Dropbox for most of my cloud backups. Google Drive is for personal stuff, Dropbox is for higher jobs. Cool. It's a great backup. It's not a traditional backup, but it's great because your data exists elsewhere, which is awesome. And it's also super easy to have that cloned to other drives. So if you've got something in Google Drive or in Dropbox, sorry. You have something in Dropbox or in Google Drive and it's on, you know, my laptop and it's on those. As soon as I plug in another computer anywhere and connect it to that, it's going to get that same data onto there. So that is a really nice, simple kind of a backup type solution. But you're paying quite a bit for your storage. It's not somewhere you're going to back up 10 terabytes of data. That's for sure. But it's great for individual projects or as you're going, as you're working. Chris Fenwick said, I made a video with this guy on YouTube where I told him what I do with data. It's not perfect, but it works for us. By this guy, he means me. I already pointed to the corner to link to it, so I'm pointing again, and you'll have to click on the little eye on there to drop it down and look for the conversation with Chris Fenwick, because it was good. It was a fun one. Let me find it on YouTube. I'll just bring it up on the screen here so you know what you're looking for as well. And see, PhotoJoseph, Chris Fenwick, and this should find it. There we go. This is it. Oh, it was a photo moment. It didn't come up as a conversation. Oh, shush. Stop, Wix ad. Where are we? There we go. This is it. Let's get past the, mute this thing, get past the ad. Strategizing data storage, archive and backup, PhotoJoseph's photo moment. 12/22, so this is last year. So this is a long chit chat. There's Fenwick, there's him and me doing our thing, chit chatting away. So if you can't get enough of Fen, that's where you can get more of him. Alrighty, Martin says, I would recommend hardware RAID rather than software RAID. Yeah, sure, but software RAID is inexpensive, and for this backup solution, it works out great. It's cheap, and it works, and frankly, software RAID has been very, very good to me. It has a great reputation, and it's been awesome. Sully says, you think I'd like the NAR box. All right, let me just Google that. Let me just see what you're talking about. NAR box. NAR box, here we go. Back to that, a NAR box, backup, edit, and share HD footage, laptop free. This is a NAR box, Cool. Oh, it's a Kickstarter. Oh, it was a Kickstarter. Okay, cool. Insert, plugin, connect. I'll check it out. Neat. Always good to see other solutions out there. Right on. Thank you for sharing that with us. I will leave that open and we'll take a look at it later. And if they've got a cool product, maybe they'll send me one and I can do a little review of it on the show. That'll be fun. Oops, scrolled off. Where'd it go? There we go. Fake Cube says, Drobo rebuilding causes drive fails because when it rebuilds, it does a huge amount of read writes to all the other drives. So if any are close to failing, when one fails, it'll kill them. I had them fail, not in the middle of any kind of rebuild. It just kind of went, uh-oh, I'm out of here, done. Chris Fenwick says, I have a closet with over 200 Seagate drives. Knock on wood, never lost one. Woohoo, go Fen, that's awesome. He also says, I think the majority of drive failures are caused by how we handle the drive way more than by the drive actually failing. Yeah, true, right? If you keep the drive in a bad enclosure, I know Fenwick is not a fan at all of the enclosures that have big rubber casings on them because they are, while it's nice for bumps and drops, they are heat sinks. They're heat retention things. So it just keeps all the heat in there, which is bad. Heat and hard drives are a bad combination, for sure. And you're probably right. The majority of failures may well be caused by mishandling of the drive. But when you're talking about a portable drive that's meant to go into your backpack, and that's what it's designed for, you have to take it with you. It's not like you can baby it when it's on the road. Then, they're built stronger, but you have to expect that that it's going to happen. You're going to lose data at some point. Kent Christian says, I have had 2 Drobos fail on me and lost data. See, I'm sorry. Wow, Fake Cube says, yup, every Drobo user I've heard from has lost their whole array at some point. Yikes. Scott Kelby did just a tear up on them many, many years ago because I think he was sponsored by them. I could be wrong. I might be misquoting here, but I think he was sponsored by them and just lost data and said, I'm out, done, forget it. Sad. Chris also says, I'm currently making another 700 gigabyte copy for a client because they said the data was corrupted. Probably not, but I'll make another copy anyway. That happens. Yeah. Probably plugged it into the wrong type of computer and couldn't read the data. Product Interna says, yeah, it's scary to see how people handle external drives. One should not even touch them while they're connected. Yeah, there is truth to that. Your laptop, back when you had spinning platter drives in laptops, there was some really cool tech where even the slightest bit of movement, the drive head would immediately pull off. And there's accelerometers, so if you dropped it, it pulled off and parked the head, right? I think that's what would happen is it would pull the reader off and park it before it could hit the ground, because all this obviously happens very quickly, which would secure against, not against, but it would give you better odds of not losing data. These days with SSD, it's a lot more robust, right? There's no moving parts. So if it's moving, you're fine. You're not going to hurt it. That's why we can have data storage in our phones and carry them everywhere. It's awesome. Flash memory / SSD. And solid state memory is fantastic for that. Way more robust. But today, still quite a bit more expensive, especially when you get into really, really big storage solutions. All right, let's see, anything else on here? We're wrapping it up here, I do believe. Blood says, seriously, I've had to tell friends not to fidget and drumming them. So, meaning like, like drumming your hard drive. Come on, drive, hurry up and copy, hurry up. Don't do that, stop, don't do that. Okay, I think that's it. That was pretty good chit chat this morning. Hopefully that is, hopefully that's helpful for some people out there. Fake Cube saying, yes, solid state drives are a real boon for laptops. Absolutely. Absolutely huge boon for laptops. Quieter, cooler, much more reliable, thinner. I mean, they're fantastic. Right? Solid state is clearly it's not even the future, it's the present of hard drive storage. Spinning platter is old. What's next? Like some kind of optical thing, right? Like some crazy holographic data storage. We're going to get into petabytes of storage and tiny little thumb drives. It's going to be incredible. But of course, once we get fast enough internet, ubiquitous internet, then you don't have to worry about it. It's just everything's in the cloud. All kinds of fun stuff. The future's pretty awesome. Okay, I think that's enough. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. That was fun. That was fun to get through this little chit chat about the drives and sharing drive failure stories. And oh look, Narbox is trying to chat with me now. Their bots are working. SSD fail too? Yeah, of course. SSDs absolutely can fail, no question about it. But they're far more robust than spinning platter drives, so less likely to fail. At least in my experience and my understanding of them. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Take care of yourselves. Have a great one, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.